You're welcome back. Well, from tomorrow, the conference with the theme Repositioning the Financial Industry for an Evolving Local Context will begin in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. The Chartered Institute of Bankers Conference is a veritable platform for all banking and finance professionals, regulators, operators, members of the academia, service providers, millennials, bank customers, business managers from all around the globe are there to share their valuable knowledge and experiences. And I bet you are concerned too if it has to do with the bank. Well, we have Mr. Ken Okpara. He's the president and chairman of the Council of the Institute, that's the CIBN. He's also the executive director of Fidelity Bank PLC. He joins us from our Abuja studio now to give us heads up on that conference that begins tomorrow. Good morning, Mr. Okpara. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Good morning, it's my pleasure.
So the conference starts tomorrow, and we see the theme, Repositioning the Financial Industry for an Evolving Local Context. Help us to understand why this theme is what you chose at this time.
Thank you very much. First, to say that the annual Banking and Finance Conference, which of course kicking off tomorrow, appears to be the biggest business conference in Africa. Over 10,000 people will be in attendance from all sectors of the economy and also globally, every part of the world. The theme is very deliberate. Essentially, we are talking about positioning the financial services sector for an evolving global context. And we are talking about positioning the financial sector because of what is happening in the financial sector, disruption that is happening, payment system, the way fintech has also continued to evolve globally. But taking into consideration also our local environment is trying as much as possible to bridge that, bring in the local experience and also what is happening in the local environment. So we are going to see speakers also from the continent speaking at this event, and as much as possible, taking into consideration what is happening at the local front, the attrition level of people, as much as what is happening at the human capital. That's why we are saying is global perspective, but looking at local content. Thank you.
So, like you even mentioned, you mentioned the issue of fintech. Recently, we know the fintechs have been getting a whole lot of competition, and sometimes begs the question: are they complements to the banks or are they competition? But I think one of the issues you're going to discuss is the nexus and the opportunities between these two, the banking sector, the banking industry, and fintech. What's the perspective of the conversation that you're going to be having there?
Essentially, the conversation is going to be talking about collaboration. It's not about competition. It's just about cooperation. In other words, we are looking at how do we partner. It's about partnership within the ecosystem. They provide the financial services using technology and as much as possible. And so basically, some few weeks ago, the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria led the collaboration that, of course, forged an MOU with the FinTech Association. And the idea is to find harmony and as much as possible that we would be able to provide a platform for certifying players in that space, given the way that market is moving, given the way disruption is also going as much as possible. And so you are going to see discussion about payment system, how to collaborate, and most importantly, one of the major things you are going to see at that event is the signing of an MOU on the payment, platform by, the Payment System Association. And the idea is basically to provide a platform that will certify payment system, among Africa in the evolving African continental free trade, area. And the idea is basically that we need to harmonize the payment platform that will allow African member country to consummate transaction using a unified payment system, even if they are using different switches, but it was going to be harmonized. So at that event, it promises to be an exciting one. You know, the institution Pan-African Payment System and CIBN will be signing a memorandum that will definitely usher in a platform that will enable players, financial institutions to actually, basically harmonize payment among African countries. Of course, you know that it has been a major challenge, and we are talking about having to drive transaction in the African continental free trade area. A harmonized payment system is very important. And of course, speaking further to that, is the fact that if you have your naira, of course, it's not useful in Ghana, or, as much as possible. Whereas if you have dollar, that is, what goes on. And then, of course, you know that we have the euro money as much as possible. That takes care of the euro country. So using this, even when you have naira, you have cedi as much as possible, there will be a harmonized payment. Whatever you pay for services in Ghana, of course, would actually happen in an online real-time basis.
Yeah, very interesting, and I must confess that catches my attention because I want to talk about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, the FCFTA, and all that. We do have Ghana, and they have started, and we are yet to start. And when you talk about manufacturers, the payment system is a major hurdle to it, and the seemingly breaking communication, because moving goods obviously from one African country to the other seems to be more expensive than moving it out. So it will be interesting to see, apart from the talks and the signing of the memorandum, the implementation of this. How soon do we expect, especially to encourage something like the FCFTA?
Okay, thank you very much. You are right to say that Ghana has started that, but I think Nigeria is positioning, and we are getting there. For CIBN, as much as possible, we are also building up the structure for sensitization. We are going to, beyond the MOU that is being signed, is the fact that there will be training programs, capacity training programs, and also roadshow that will take along the various key sectors. Of course, Nigeria remains one of the biggest economy in Africa, no doubt, as much as possible. And so, so much is happening in terms of building the capacity, in terms of building synergy as much as possible, because you are totally correct. If you have to move something from one country, to another country in Africa, it takes longer, as compared with when you have done that in any part of Europe. So this, again, is part of what is going on. Of course, earlier this year, we had the AFREXIM annual meeting. Different stakeholders had sessions as much as possible to be able to think about how do we harmonize this. I think Nigeria is also positioning. The small businesses are also being capacitated as much as possible to how to take advantage of that. There are so many opportunities that are available in Nigeria. If you look at cocoa as much as possible, you discover that it's one of the major, export earning for Nigeria as it is. And so we want to move away just from being raw material exporting country to a processing hub, which of course central bank has also advanced in terms of providing support. And that is what you see in the RT200, basically geared towards driving support to those that will also process as much as possible, and also the other needed support as that we are doing. So I think that momentum is gathering up. CIBN is at the center of it, building capacity, bridging the gaps as much as possible, also forging collaboration among other institutions. So we think that the time has come for Africa to take its right position, and Nigeria obviously is in the center of it. CIBN is also playing a pivotal role in that regard.
All right, interesting, and we do hope to see that. But there's also the issue of sustainable development, and that is obviously connected to climate change. The financial sector does have a role to play in this.
Okay, thank you so much, and you've taken it off me. At the conference, we have a plenary session talking about sustainable development, green economy, and then, of course, climate change. You're going to see experts at different areas, different sectors as much as possible having to discuss this. The financial sector is very much as valuable, and is supporting this. As a matter of fact, part of the content basically for people that are operating, especially in the manufacturing sector, is the fact that how compliant are they to the environment, and which we call the sustainable development. So you develop this, and we must, as much as possible, once you see a credit report from any manufacturing company, the content again will be speaking to how have they complied to the climate change, how have they complied to green mutation in terms of ensuring that the environment that they are operating, they are responsible to it as much as possible. Because, of course, we are conscious of seeing the fact that most of the people operating in those areas, the workers, how safe are they? What are the platforms that are created to ensure that they remain very relevant? And also the environment, how, as much as possible, have they tried, to ensure that those things are also relevant. And in doing this, you will see discussion as regard to that. And of course, there's a program we have at Chartered Institute of Bankers talking about sustainable development. And the key to it is about looking at the environment, looking at how to be socially responsible, looking at how to ensure that people comply with requirement guidelines, as much as possible. So we'll continue to drive this because that is at the heart of what we do as much as possible.
Yeah, so, apart from those conversations and the panels you're going to have, when we talk about cutting emissions and sustainable developments, climate change, it has to do with our everyday activities. So I do hope that apart from those talks, then the message will be passed down into practicing it in the offices every day after the conference.
Absolutely. It's a way of life. And part of what we do is that at the end of the conference, we'll be able to have a communique that will be given to the policy makers and also practitioners. And we will try as much as possible to see how are they implementing this. It's a way of life as much as possible. And I need to say clearly that we are very, very, very serious about its implementation as much as possible. We have already put a department at CIBN basically to monitor this and ensure that, of course, that compliance is going on. And I want to say that the Bankers Committee are also very, very, very serious about it. They've put a lot of, given a lot of attention to this. They paying so much, attention, and that's also making sure that, as the industry embrace that. And that, for me, that's also a very, very important thing. So it's a way of life as much as possible. Every day we think that should, people should be sensitive to that, both from bottom top as much as possible.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ken Opara, the president of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. We do wish you the very best as you begin your deliberations tomorrow, and we do hope that it is taken beyond the conversations into implemented actions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Just to add that this year on also promises to be unique in the sense that there's going to be a research study that has been done on the attrition level of the younger ones out of this country. And then, of course, the session promises to provide, what are the areas we think, the industry and also the economy as much as possible would contend this and manage the workforce. Thank you so much.
Interesting, Mr. Opara. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.